Jonathan has low self-esteem. That's what every single report card of mine said from the age of 5 to 17. That was what my parents told me when they read it out, and that's what my teachers told me when they told me what was in it. That was the story that I was told about me. And that ended up being the story I told myself. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, believe it or not, I was the kid at the back of the class that wouldn't say boo. I wouldn't put my hand up, even if I knew the answer, because it was more about fitting in and giving into the shyness than it was about being me. So I learned to fit in, because that was much easier than trying to be maybe who I thought I was. And I was fulfilling a story, the one I got told and the one I believed. I didn't do those things because I had low self-esteem. I also didn't include myself as much as I could, and I didn't take charge or get involved as much as I could, also written on these cards. Fast forward a little bit to when I leave my hometown of Blenheim and come to Christchurch. I'm in my early 20s, and oddly enough, someone with low self-esteem, the first job I find myself doing is door-to-door sales. Doesn't quite fit. What actually happened is that it turned out I was okay at this door-to-door thing. I got to a point where I could walk up to a stranger's house, and 1 out of 5 doors that I knocked on and got to speak to someone, I could convince them to give me money. On the spot. Does that sound like someone with low self-esteem? So I started to realize that potentially maybe what I didn't have was low self-esteem. Maybe back then all I did was lack a bit of confidence. I had maybe some latent abilities, I don't know. But what I started to realize that the story that I told myself, I could change. Fast forwarding a little bit more now, and I found this organisation called Toastmasters. And they are teaching me that these things that I'm able to do when I'm talking to people for trying to get them to give me money, I can combine with better speaking techniques. So I joined Toastmasters to make more money. Naturally, right? I think that's why everyone joins. But that's how I found Toastmasters, is that because I wanted to get better at what I was already thought that I was good at. And so I focused on that. And then through that I started to learn a whole bunch of other stuff about talking to people in contests, and then mentoring, and then building people. And I started to change a bit more of the story I did. And I started to realize that the story I tell myself is actually mine to tell, not anyone else's. And then we would bring it all the way forward to today, where my life is right now at this point in quite a state of flux. There is nothing solid at the moment. Everything is up in the air. I'm juggling a lot of things. There's a Toastmasters club. You've got to be the president of. You've got to do speeches. You've got to do pathway stuff. And then they're asking you to do public relations stuff for the district. And then on top of that, you've got a job which you have to reapply for, because it's time that there's a big shake-up happen. So you don't even know, within a couple of weeks whether I'll have a job. Then I've got projects outside of that going on. There's a lot going on, people coming in and out of my life. Nothing's fixed right now. If I was someone that lived by another person's story about me, that would be scary. All of that stuff going on. But now I realise, through a bit of reflection and looking back on life, that the story that I tell myself, I'm actually the author of. I also edit it, and I publish it. And then I read it back to myself, the finished product, if you like. So with everything going on, the next part of the story you're definitely going to want to read.